So right now we face a great turning. We are at a turning point, a time of great change. It's a time that in the future will be deemed historic. We are facing a lot of complexities, and it's quite a disorienting space, these passages or these kind of events. We face the unknown, and we can't necessarily see what's to come. So a couple of things I really appreciate about the Biennale talks is the focus on resilience, which is not just how we move through things, but that we actually become more from them, not less. The other part is kinship, and what we might be experiencing in this time, which does happen in these sorts of passages, is an actual tear or rip in the fabric of our communities. And this can be quite painful to be amongst, but also what we can see in these experiences, and what we also know even from the fabric, the muscles of our body, is that the repair can be stronger than ever before. These moments of great change, when we can't see, we are like that seed in darkness, and it actually calls us inward into that seed at our core of reassessing who we are, what life means, what's taking place, what matters most to us. And it's that dormant moment that brings about the richest renewal. Anything that we've been holding or ignoring for a while is bound to come up right now. It's a moment where everything comes into your lap, and there's really no turning away from it. So these, for the sake of just defining rites of passage as the process that marks the transition from one stage or phase of life to another. So it can be anytime there's an event where there's a before and an after the event, or maybe a change in your identity of who I was and who I'm becoming, or our roles in the world. It can also be times of loss. It can be times of clarity. But really the passages is what is taking place, and the rite of passage is how we engage it, how we face it, and how we allow it to bring forward what's on the other side. So there's two things that really stand out in this. One is that how we each experience our rites of passage is completely unique, in the sense that it serves to bring something out in you, and what it brings out in you is unique. How you respond, what insights and gifts come forward, and that is why you're alive right now. The second part, or the other part, is that in the actual elements or facets of your experience, there is nothing new here. So just to feel that for a moment, that if we look back at the generations before us, if we look back at humanity, at our cultural makeup, at history of where we live, the history of who we're connected to, we can find these elements in everything that was remarkable or creative or important or relevant, devastating. And so what we see is the whole facets of the human journey. We see really hard decisions, we see broken hearts, we see uprisings and natural disasters, moments where life changes in an instant. We see struggles of power, feelings of helplessness. We also see times when things become possible that we would never have fathomed or imagined could have been possible. We see transcendental experiences, synchronistic events, moments where two or more parts come together that wouldn't have otherwise come together, where that wouldn't have unfolded in that way. We know that they've experienced longevity and hardship and patience, as well as urgency and inspiration, and calling on something greater than themselves in that moment, finding something deeper or more meaningful that allows us to do this, to be in this process. So what we know from this reflection, from looking back, is that we know in our bones, in our cells, in our consciousness, we know how to do this living and dying. We know how to do this death and rebirth. And we also know how to initiate ourselves and one another. So the initiation of how we change from what we face, in terms of entering a more authentic life, or a deeper calling, or a clearer connection, or a stronger voice, or a wider ability to be with, whatever that is. And so we know that it is from leaning into these experiences, from actually facing them and where our edges are, that it is how we do these rites of passages that determines our renewal. And that it is through the pressurized experience that we discover who we really are, and we find not just ourselves, but we find one another. We really see one another more clearly, and we learn our path. The path that we always had planned doesn't really mean anything. We actually learn our path, and life will always show us. Whenever we're unclear about our direction or why we're here, life will show us. And we gather the trust to walk this way or guide our loved ones, our families, our communities from this place.